Welcome to the HRchat Show, one of the world's most downloaded and shared podcasts designed for HR pros, talent execs, tech enthusiasts, and business leaders. For hundreds more episodes and what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit HRgazette.com.
Welcome to another episode of the HRchat Show. Hello, listeners. This is your host today, Bill Banham. And in this episode, I'm going to chat with Nikki Scarr, Global Head of HR over at abcam. With a career spanning both corporate and military HR, Nikki brings a unique perspective to the profession with 18 years of experience in a variety of HR roles around the world. Currently Global Head of HR for leading Cambridge-based life sciences company abcam, Nikki has partnered the organization's digital transformation for the past 3 years, forging connections between talent and innovation. Nikki is passionate about creating inclusive and diverse workforces that empower people to achieve their full potential. And she's going to be a speaker at the Disrupt session within the upcoming Cambridge AI Summit happening on June 18th. Nikki Scarr, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the HRchat Show today. Hello.
Hello, thank you for having me. I've been to a couple of Disrupt events now and I've been hugely impressed. So I'm thrilled to be invited to take part. I think you've covered a lot in your intro about me, but I guess I could add that I love most about our profession is that we're always the bridesmaid, rarely the bride. We can influence change and outcomes far wider than ourselves. And ultimately, we coach and develop others to achieve things that they didn't think was possible. So that's why I'm in HR and why I'm there.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the HRchat podcast. If you enjoy the audio content we produce, you'll love our articles on the HR Gazette. Learn more at HRgazette.com. And now, back to the show.
Love it. Thank you very much. Okay, so you're a very interesting person. You're very clever, charismatic, and you've had a very interesting career background. Your career journey into HR is fairly unique because it spans both corporate and military HR. How do you think your experience has shaped you as an HR pro?
Oh, gosh. Well, like many, I didn't plan to go in HR. I had 4 years of recruiting experience before joining the army, and I ended up as a HR specialist just by chance because there was a short notice slot for training. I enjoyed it. It stuck. I'm here 18 years later. So it's not been a stereotypical ladder. But in terms of how it shaped me, I've seen and experienced many challenging situations. I'm rarely flappable. I'm really fortunate to have worked in some incredible high-performing teams and frankly the best in the world. So I take those learnings into my corporate partnering, and it's driven me to be purpose-led. I seek out teams and opportunities to work with people and environments that make the world a better place. So it's really focused me on where I like to play in my role.
And because you are such a nice human being, Nikki Scarr, one of the things that you're quite passionate about is social mobility. Tell us more about why that is.
I am, yeah. I'm not sure I'm the nicest human being, but thanks, Bill. I try to be. It's really personal to me. I am the first in my family to go to uni. I did that part-time at the age of 28. I didn't even know that these career paths exist. I didn't know what HR was when I was younger. And I believe that you can't be what you can't see. So if you ask a child what they want to be when they grow up, they're likely to cite something similar to things that are familiar. So a doctor, a policeman, those things that they see around them or what they see in their family, or in the case of my nephew, an ice cream truck driver. But I think by opening doors and enhancing social mobility, we provide visibility that helps us tap into untapped talent. And helps individuals have a wider opportunity and a wider visibility of what they can achieve. Selfishly, it's also really rewarding to see that impact of levelling the playing field for future generations and hearing about the impact you have on a young person. I had a student last year who he messaged me actually after he got into university and saying that it was his experience in our work experience week, which he cited in his applications and he talked about in all of his interviews, that he feels got him the role that he did and the opportunity that he did at uni. So it's hugely rewarding.
Once in a while, an event series is born that shakes things up, it makes you think differently, and it leaves you inspired. That event is Disrupt HR. The format is 14 speakers, 5 minutes each, and slides rotate every 15 seconds. If you're an HR professional, a CEO, a technologist, or a community leader and you've got something to say about talent, culture, or technology, Disrupt is the place. It's coming soon to a city near you. Learn more at disrupthr.co.
So my first job when I was 13 was in a bingo hall. I still know all the numbers to this day. Back then it was Major's Den, number 10. And I am also the first in my family to go to university, so I can relate to that. Kudos to you. What initiatives have you championed for social mobility? What would you like to highlight there?
I founded abcam's first social mobility employee resource group, which we had work experience weeks before that, and it was just about science and just in the UK. So by pulling together an employee resource group across the world, we were able to spread that cross-functionally and globally. And we also expanded outreach and implemented structures to support development internally as well. So social mobility is not just about young people and outreach into the environment, but also about how we support leaders of the future within our organisation. We've reached more than 300 young people by work experience, mentoring, open days, workshops. And we've raised awareness internally by sharing stories from leaders. And we've run campaigns with T-shirts of career journeys. You might have seen mine on LinkedIn. It's the most famous I've ever felt when that got shared on LinkedIn and X, and my mum told me it was on X. I'm not sure how she ever saw that on X, but her colleague told her about it. So it's a social mobility ERG was really the thing that I'm most proud of, and the legacy that I kind of set up within our organisation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. What have you had to overcome, Nikki, to have meaningful impact, do you think?
Raising understandings of social mobility in the first place was quite a significant challenge. I think it's got the lowest awareness across diversity and inclusion initiatives. And just starting the conversation to say this is about supporting people from less privileged backgrounds and helping people to understand that. We had to change perceptions of Cambridge, actually, where we're based in our HQ, because people think it's just an affluent area, which it is, but Cambridge ranks 275th out of 324 local authorities across England and Wales on the Social Mobility Index. It's really low for young people from poorer backgrounds in the city, and has the 5th lowest score of any local authority for youth social mobility. So overcoming people's perceptions of Cambridge, and then understanding how do we outreach into our community to help teachers, to help students, to help young people, care leavers, lots of different avenues, but to change that perception initially was quite challenging. And then I've had my own battle with imposter syndrome. I outed myself as being from a working class family, and giving that information in quite a public way. I did it on LinkedIn, felt really challenging, but I felt like I needed to, as the leader of the team, to set an example and inspire others to share their stories. And really that's about myth busting and enabling people to see that those in leadership roles have had different journeys and to see themselves in you. So it was a challenge, but well worth it.
We'll be right back to this episode, but first, did you know that the NeoCase digital HR platform includes collaborative case management, business process automation, document management, onboarding, transitioning, workflows, and analytics? NeoCase integrates with core HR platforms including Workday, SAP, Oracle, and other third-party applications to achieve seamless user experience and automation, and we are proud to be a supporter of this HRchat episode. Learn more at neocasesoftware.com.
So just briefly on that, Nikki, you you're brave and you put it out there through LinkedIn. What was the kind of response that you got? Were folks generally supportive? Did you get inspiration? Lots of love? Did you get any trolls? Just share a bit about that.
I didn't get trolls. Maybe that's indicative of the lovely people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn. But it was phenomenal, honestly, Bill. Firstly, I got a lot of love and a lot of love from people that I probably haven't connected with personally from earlier on in my career that didn't know this about me, or people that did and knew I'd been not necessarily hiding it, but not overtly saying that I haven't had privilege, which that's unfair. I've had privilege in a lot of ways, but financial privilege wasn't where I initially came from. What else did I have? I actually had a lot of people. So I did it via the This Little Girl Is Me for International Women's Day. And I had a lot of people connecting with me afterwards, junior people in the HR profession, asking me for a chat or a mentoring session. I actually connected with quite a lot of people about how to progress in our profession and in your career out of the back of it. So, and then just within my organisation, it inspired other leaders to share their stories internally. And we had some great stories from very senior leaders across the organisation that shared who they are, where they'd come from. And, you look at a VP of sales or the CEO, and you don't necessarily expect that they haven't gone to private school and they haven't had, an amazing education, but that they've got there through sheer hard work. And they shared stories about mentoring or getting the chip off their shoulder and asking for help where they need it, and talked about their stories of overcoming their challenges. So it was great in hindsight, but I was shaking when I pressed the button.
Well, I think you are brilliant for doing that. So lots of respect to you.
Thank you.
I want to switch focus now, Nikki, with the few minutes that we've got left before we hit record today. And this is the reason we've only got a few minutes left, because we're having a good old chit chat before we hit record today. So before we hit record today, Nikki and I were talking about her involvement at the Cambridge AI Summit, and she's going to be doing a Disrupt talk focused on AI in the world of work within the AI Summit. We've done a couple now in Norwich, UK, and we've got others happening in Peterborough and Milton Keynes and places again in the UK. There's so much going on over at abcam, and Nikki is heading up so much. So I've got a gazillion questions that I could ask her about AI in the world of work and how her team is getting more from generative technologies. But I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick ones. So for example, from our chat earlier, I understand that you're already using bots, you're using generative AI, you've got this amazing technology with personas to help augment, or indeed in some cases replace some functions. So for example, your bots, they've got profiles, they're called Abby, they're called Nikki, who's in a leadership role, I believe you mentioned. Tell us a bit about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we've got digital workers, and like you say, they've got their own personalities, their own profiles. We recruited our first bot manager, actually, and I think that was my first realization that it's here to stay, and it's an opportunity for us to really look at the future of the workforce. So yeah, we've got Abby, Dottie, Luca, Charlie, Nikki. Nikki, shares my name and is therefore a very strong leader of the team. But it's our bot team really looks at how we can enhance what our employees, our colleagues do, by taking some of the legwork and the incredibly valuable work, but that can be done so that our teams can focus on the more interesting, the more human-centric areas of their work. And I think that that's the way that the world is going, and that's where I personally don't think that AI is here to take all of our jobs. I think AI is going to enable us to really focus on what humans do well and have the critical thinking, the human interaction, and AI can enable us to do that better, quicker, faster. And we as professionals need to think about, what does that future look like, and help our teams to plan for it, both from a talent perspective, but from an ethical perspective too. So I'm looking forward to talking about
that. And we're looking forward to it. It's going to be an amazing session. The ethical side you just mentioned right at the end there of your answer. Yeah. Again, before you and I hit record today, you mentioned, Bill, one area that I'm not super comfortable with yet in terms of AI doing most of the legwork, to use that phrase, is the selection and recruitment process. I feel like maybe we still need to have humans involved there. I hope you don't mind me sort of quoting our conversation before we started. Just briefly, why is that? Why do you think at the moment it's important to still have real people involved in the selection and recruitment stages?
My understanding of AI at the moment is that it's looking at the history and what information is already out there. And so from a recruitment perspective, it looks at what your workforce has already got or what is available. So if you have a white middle-class male workforce, it's going to look for that in the way that it works. And also it'll look for things, where a human can be critical and look at information and ask questions and think about how that might be structured. AI can't do that for us. And so I think we still need to have that critical ear and edge. And then I'd add to that a lot of the workforce coming through now are using AI to develop their CVs, to do their applications. And therefore, a lot of them are very similar, which sometimes isn't a bad thing, but you need a human to look at, what does this really mean for us? What value can they really add? And to see the untapped talent. As I talk about social mobility, that could be a real area that's overlooked by AI, but we can add that critical edge.
Wonderful. Listeners, I was also trying to tap Nikki up to speak at the AI summit we're doing in Milton Keynes in October. So watch this space on getting her involved with that one too.
Trying to get you on record.
Maybe. Nikki, before we do wrap up for today, how can our listeners connect with you?
LinkedIn. I keep getting told that I should be on TikTok and Instagram and the rest, but I still feel too old to be doing that yet, although my teams tell me that I'm not. I'm on LinkedIn, find me there. Love to connect with other like-minded people, chat about social mobility, come ask questions.
Perfect. Well, that just leaves me to say for today, Nikki Scarr, fantastic name, by the way. Nikki Scarr, thank you very much for being my guest on today's episode of the HR Chat Show.
Thanks, Bill.
And listeners, as always, until next time, happy working.
Thanks for listening to the HR Chat Show. If you enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and listen to some of the hundreds of episodes published by HR Gazette? And remember, for what's new in the world of work, subscribe to the show, follow us on social media, and visit hrgazette.com.